Hey everybody, it's Justin. And guess what? We finally received our soil samples. I'm pretty excited about this. I got them about lunchtime today, and I've been looking them over, and it kind of quantified what I thought was going to be an issue. If you go back to some of my previous videos to see where I was talking about possibly having a lime deficiency, or not so much lime as in pH. I figured my pH is low, and lime corrects that. So I got my results. Now I sent in four samples, basically samples 1A, 1B, and then 2A and 2B. So I just kind of kept them real simple. So they have them labeled nicely for me for my results here. So I got 2B, 2B, 2A, and then I have 1B and 1A. So we'll kind of go through these here real quick. Now, obviously, each test is the same set of parameters, just different results. Now, as you can see, site one right here being this piece here, and site two being the piece on the hill, which we'll look at when we look at the corn. They're not very big. Um, this is roughly probably, I don't know, 350, 400, 500 square feet. I mean, I'm being generic here, but they're not very big. And yet I had varying results. And so that was kind of pretty interesting to me because in the past, when I put amendments on the soil, I kind of kept them pretty similar. Obviously, I wasn't putting a bunch of fertilizer or anything like that in one spot and not another. I was putting it throughout the whole garden. So, it just kind of shows you how each part of it can kind of change and kind of vary and whatnot. Now, with that said, we're not going to change how much I put in one spot versus another because the differences are so minute that basically we're trying to improve the overall health of the soil and not just necessarily one little spot in my garden here. So that's what we're going to go over now. Some afternoon coffee first, though. So plot 1A, so that would be this forward part towards the house here. Soil pH 5.3, which I believe is actually one of my better spots. Yeah, basically. The 1B behind me was actually 5.5. So for corn, they recommend an optimum soil pH of 6.5, and I believe that value can actually go up to like 7.2 or 7.5. And so that's your pH value of the soil, acidity versus alkali. And so different plants have different values that they require. Corn, they recommend around 6.5. And I'm fairly familiar with a lot of these results and values and what they mean, but I'm not no expert or rocket scientist here. So I kind of have their handy dandy interpreting your soil results booklet that I printed off as well. So going through this, soil pH is 5.3. So that was 5.3. This was 5.4. It was actually 5 here. And then my lowest being 4.9 on the very end. So basically, I need to raise the whole thing 1.5 points. And so they actually recommended, and so they have their recommendations also on here, which is one of the reasons why I used University of Massachusetts, by the way, the UMass extension, is they had a recommendation for sweet corn. And so I wanted to use them so they could test my soil samples, see what it looked like, and then give me a recommendation of what they thought I needed to put on for fertilizer this year. And so we'll get to that in a second here. So soil pH is 5.3, and then they break down all of my macro and micronutrients. Okay, so your macronutrients being phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Okay, your phosphorus and potassium are part of your normal fertilizer ratios, phosphorus being your P and potassium being your K. So the way your fertilizer ratios break down is the first number is nitrogen, second number is phosphorus, third number is potassium. So N, P, and K. Okay. Uh, Phosphorus and potassium are part of what helps plants be strong, the plant tissues themselves be strong and sturdy, and help them in their nutrient uptake. Nitrogen is the part that makes the plant grow up. So corn, being a very tall plant, requires a lot of nitrogen. And then they have micronutrients. So just like us with our bodies, we have micronutrients that we get through our food and our surroundings that we don't even realize that we need to function. Okay, so micronutrients being boron, manganese, zinc, copper, and iron, aluminum, and lead. Now, obviously, we don't need a whole lot of aluminum and lead, but what we do need is manganese, iron, zinc. Okay, you're all familiar with these in your vitamins. And so, just like us, plants need them as well. So let's go through and kind of talk about what we're looking at ratio-wise here with Site 1A. And we'll kind of glance over the other ones here, so I'm not talking for half an hour about numbers and things. And I don't want to be too boring here. So phosphorus, the optimum range is from 4 to 14. Okay, we had a phosphorus of 0.5. Okay, so other than our pH being low, our phosphorus is also pretty low across this spot here. And so when we apply our fertilizers, we're going to apply our fertilizers, our nitrous and our potassium at our normal rate, but then we're going to go a little heavy on our phosphorus to try to bring those levels up. So our phosphorus is 0.5 out of an optimum range of 4 to 14. So that's pretty low. Potassium is okay. It scored a 121 out of, and it should be between 100 and 160. Calcium, we had 1,035, and it should be between 1,000 and 1,500. Now these are the ranges they're giving me. I don't know exactly how they're what scale this is measured on, but they're just giving me a range so I can kind of understand what I'm working with here. Manganese, we had a 127, or that's no magnesium. We had a 127. They should be between 50 and 120, so we're actually pretty good there. And sulfur should be around 10. It should be a little 10 or less, and we had 10 exactly. So sulfur's right there in that kind of good spot. Now, as far as the micronutrients, boron, we had 0.1, and they say you should have 0.1 to 0.5. This is probably parts per million. I'm not sure. Manganese, we had 13.6. So that's actually kind of high because on their scale, you should have 1.1 to 6.3. I don't think it's detrimental. It's just how it measures. Zinc should be, we had a 1.3. You should have a 1.0 to a 7.6. So we're kind of low, but we're okay. Copper, we had 0.2. You should be 0.3 to 0.6. So we're a little low on copper. Iron, we actually scored fairly in the middle of the road there, being we had a 4.9, and the optimum range is 2.7 to 9.4. Aluminum, you should have less than 75. We had 59. And lead, you should have less than 22. We had 1.9, so lead's pretty low, which is good. At least for us. You know, plants obviously need a certain amount, but anyways. Let's see here. What else do we want to touch on here? So they also did my see, calcium, magnesium, potassium, base saturation. So they checked the saturations, base saturation of the soil samples. So calcium base saturation was 37, should be between a 50 and an 80. So it's a little low on calcium, as it kind of stated in the other results. Magnesium base saturation, we have 7, should be between 10 and 30. Potassium base saturation we have a 2, should be between 2 and 7. So we're actually halfway okay there. And then we also did an optional test of our soil organic matter test, which we had a 4. So I'm still working on the scale of how the soil organic matter test kind of pans out as far as a range. I know 4 is kind of low, and we're working on building up our soil organic matter with our cover crops and the other additives I want to put into this throughout the year here. I want to add some compost, probably some untreated wood chips and stuff like that to help add more organic matter to this soil and to help the bacteria and whatnot in the soil have something to eat and to grow and to kind of multiply with. So going through our interpreting soil results here, we're going to skip to the soil organic matter test here. So let's see here, organic matter, okay? Let's see. Soil organic matter is composed of materials containing carbon. Okay, all living things contain carbon. Me, you, the trees, everything. Let's see. Humus is the end product of decay and resistant to further decomposition. Native SOM content, so soil organic matter, is most cultivated or developed areas of New England is almost always less than 8%, typically in the 2 to 4% range. So I don't know if that 4 is a percent. Maybe I have 4% organic matter. I'm not sure. Um, this being Indiana and being part of where the great glaciers came through, and there used to be an ocean here. We have that's I think that's part of why we have all this clay and fossils and whatnot from ocean and water life. Is I believe we should have a higher organic matter, but I'm not entirely sure on that. I'm just kind of speculating here. I'll just keep reading here. Well drained, coarse textured soils tend to naturally have lower levels of SOM, which these aren't well drained, coarse soils, these are heavy clays. Kind of going back to what I was talking about there. Let's see. SOM, so soil organic material, supplies nutrients through the process of mineralization, which is the decomposition of organic compounds by microbial action into carbon dioxide and mineral constituents. Soil microbes, so that's what we're working on building here is our soil microbes, okay? It's really part of this giant, well, I say giant, but obviously on a small scale, but giant ecostructure within our soils that a lot of people don't even realize. The optimal range of SOM for soil health varies across soil types. Generally, low levels of SEM are sufficient and practical to achieve in coarse textured sandy soils. Finer soils with more clay content, for example, 2.5 SOM in loamy sand soil might be considered ideal, while 2.5% could be considered marginal in silt loam, where 3 to 5% is more common. And that's just kind of where it stops there. So we have 4% here. So I'm going to say it's probably low for our area. They don't really say what a clay soil should have. I'll have to look into that further. We can discuss it some more. But we're going to work on building that up anyways. So with that said, they gave us their recommendations as we were talking. Okay. And I'll go over this. We'll move on from here. It's already been kind of long and drawn out. Again, why I use UMass is they had a recommendation for sweet corn, and so that's why I use them. So they gave me a recommendation. So a target pH of 6.5 on plot 1A, which is this one here, which is one of our better ones. They recommend, now this is by the acre, okay, 5,000 pounds of limestone per acre. Now you're thinking, wow, 5,000 pounds. So that's across an entire acre. And that is to raise the target pH to 6.5 from roughly 5.3 or 5, whatever it was. Now, they also say don't apply this all at once, because if you do too much all at once, you actually adversely affect your plants that you're trying to help. So you apply it in basically a two-step process. Nitrogen, they recommend 100 to 130 of nitrogen, which is the N, that's your first number of your fertilizer. Phosphorus, they recommend 140 pounds per acre. And potassium, they're recommending 80 pounds per acre. Now, this is for sweet corn based off of how my soil results were. This is what they're telling me I should put down to help achieve the most nutrition I can for these plants. So, with that said, tonight on the way home, I stopped and I picked up some lime to help raise my soil pH. So I sat down and figured out what I'm going to need. So these numbers are based off of an acre. And so I kind of sat down and figured out that I have roughly between these two spots and over at Harold and Karen's, I have roughly 2,500 square feet of corn garden here, right? So figuring it all out versus an acre, there's roughly 46,000 and change square feet in an acre. So doing the math basically comes down to 2,500 divided into 46,000 and change is roughly 17 and change. So I took whatever number they gave me per acre, divided it by 17, and gave me a rough number. Okay, so I took the highest limestone rate they were giving me was 8,000 pounds per acre. Divided that by 17 was 470. So on my way home tonight, I picked up about 460 pounds of limestone, or not limestone, lime, and going off of their nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium recommendation, putting that into a fertilizer rate calculator that I found from, I believe it was the University of Georgia. They basically, I put down the triple 12 fertilizer that I picked up tonight, and they told me how much I needed, which is roughly 74 pounds. I picked up two 40-pound bags, which gives me 80 pounds, so that's close enough. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to put down our lime, the first half of our lime that we're going to put down. So we're going to put down roughly 200, probably 250 pounds tonight or so, 240 pounds of it tonight. And then we'll do the rest in probably 3 to 4 weeks or so. So we're going to put down our lime tonight, and we might even do the first half of our fertilizer, because I'm going to break the fertilizer up into two sections as well. The corn's really not ready for fertilizer yet. I might actually wait on fertilizer. Generally, corn, you give it its first shot of fertilizer when you plant it. So generally, it's called starter fertilizer, goes with the seed when you plant it. Just a small amount of fertilizer to give it something to get going with. And then you can also apply, you could pre-apply your fertilizer deeper into your soil so it's there for the plants when they're ready for it, or you can apply it throughout the year. We'll probably apply it throughout the season here. I may put down some of it tonight to give it something to work with and kind of take off with. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So to do that tonight, we're going to use my push broadcast spreader. So I'll be able to push that along here and get that on video here so you guys can kind of see how that works. It's real simple, just a big hopper. It's ground driven, so as I'm pushing it spins a spindle that spins the disc, and if the product falls down on a disc and spreads it out across your garden. It's pretty straightforward, and it's also why I'm in boots and not moccasins tonight, for those paying attention. So that way I'm not filling my moccasins up full of lime here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, let's go ahead and do a corn walkthrough here. So I have some things to point out tonight as we're walking through this to kind of show you some certain things here that are some of the things you kind of battle when you're planting different seeds, not just corn, but soybeans and whatever. And a lot of it comes down to planting depth and date of emergence and how, kind of how your stand fills out. And it really kind of dictates how it's going to go for the rest of the year, especially when you have a big giant cornfield and your corn is so densely rowed, just like it is in a normal farm field. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look, just to kind of look down these rows, because you'll be able to see the corn sprouts better. You know, the corn sprouts that have been up now for about a week are about 3 inches tall, and we still have some that are actually starting to come up from the ground. And the reason why that is they got planted deeper than the others. Now you're probably thinking, well, you use that fancy planter, why are they deeper than the others? And that's because of the way the ground was broke up and the way I was pushing it through. Some of it actually got planted deeper than the others. I was kind of shooting for 2 inches. You know, generally most field corn and whatnot is planted about 2.5, 2 3/4. The deeper you go, the longer it takes to come up. If you go too deep, it won't make it up before it runs out of energy. If you plant too shallow, if you get a frost or something like that, you could lose that corn germination, that corn sprout. So with that said, we'll kind of walk down and look at these little rows right here. I'll try to turn the camera so you folks can see. But if you look down the rows, you can see the little green sprouts coming up. So this first row here, there's still some that are coming up. Some on the end have come up already, but there's still some more coming up. And as we walk down through here, you can kind of see them show up real well. There they are, all laying in there, all nice in a little row. We got all our little corn sprouts, all happy. You know, you can see I have this little bare spot here, and I have a bare spot there, and then this bare spot right here. That was where this ground was kind of broke up hard, not as broke up as well, and it kind of, I think it got a little deeper than it should have, because all these seeds pretty well germinate pretty well evenly, and so I don't think it's the seed or anything like that. I just think it mostly comes down to planting conditions, and that's really what a lot of it comes down to, because so say these plants that are coming up now, you know, they're going to come up and they're going to turn into little corn sprouts. You know, they're fine, right? They're little corn sprouts. But the problem is their neighbors are already way taller. And so now they're going to have to fight their neighbors their entire life for sunshine. And so, you know, if you ever look at a cornfield and you notice how the outside rows are shorter, the outside corn stalks are shorter, and then the inside ones are way taller. That's because they're all fighting for sunshine, and so they have to reach for the sky to try to get as much as they can. Now, in my garden here, in the way the sun travels through the sky here, so basically it comes from the east right here behind me, up and over the house, up and across the sky, and it sets down behind the farm here, as you know from my beautiful sunset pictures I get. It'll be okay. You know, it could fight for some sunshine, but I don't think it's going to affect them too much. And this being sweet corn, it doesn't get as tall anyways, and I have these on basically 24-inch rows. And so they should get enough sunlight. Now this one here up on the hill, this one actually filled in quite nicely. This soil breaking down a lot better, seemed much loamier. The planter pushed through it a lot easier, so I think the seeds got placed a lot better, and they're all coming up much more evenly. As you can see looking down this row, you can kind of see how they're all about the same height. We got 5 nice little rows, right? We got 5, 3, 4, yep, 5 little nice little rows. This one here being a little bit spottier, but not too bad. We got 5 nice little rows of sweet corn here, just growing along. I'm super excited about these, and so that's kind of our progress report. We'll go ahead and look at the other piece that we just planted last weekend here shortly. So let's see, that was planted last Sunday. Yep, it was Sunday because I did it after I got back from church. So today's Wednesday, so it's only been a whole 3 days. So I'm not expecting, I haven't looked at it since then, I'm not expecting any germination or emergence yet. It's more likely going to be probably Friday. But we'll see, because it got rain that night, which means the seeds were able to get moisture and start, you know, swelling again and start doing their thing. So you never know, we might be surprised, but we'll see what happens. So, corn sprout walkthrough. Look at that, we're gonna walk down the rows of corn. Look at that. Just sitting there, doing their thing, growing. Not a care in the world yet. Once they get big and grown up and have ears on them, then they gotta start fighting off the raccoons and the deer. But for right now, they're all happy. Let's go up here. Let's walk through here. You can see it all. Look at it. Look at it all. Just growing in rows. It might be why I like corn so much, because it grows in rows and looks all neat and pretty and whatnot. The moles have been helping me, I see. Helping me aerate my soil, I guess. As long as the corn plants don't get their roots disturbed, I guess they'll probably be okay. The moles will knock it off here once this stuff turns into concrete and they can't dig through it anymore. But, so there's this one here. Look at that. Look at all that corn. And then to top it all off, look at that. Would you just look at it? So beautiful. This thing holds, and then we just got to get our rate set right, basically based off of the opening trap door on the bottom of this, which allows the product to fall through with gravity onto the spreader bar on the bottom, and it gets spun around as I push this thing. It's pretty neat and handy. So let's see here. Let's see how many bags we can get in this thing. Pro tip is to make sure the trap door is closed before you start putting stuff in it. Ask me how I know. So this is pelletized lime. It's basically lime that's encapsulated in a little coating of inert material, whatever it is. I don't know. They don't ever say what it is on the bag. It's probably just fancy dirt. But what makes this nice is I can put it down, and then when it rains or when I water the corn, that's when it's going to break down and go into the soil. So until then, it's mostly safe, just kind of sitting there. It's not going to get blown away or anything too much. So that's one bag. I bet you we can get 2 bags in here. Famous last words. Let's see. Oh yeah. Couldn't hold much more, but it's 80 pounds. So now we'll go ahead, put the cover back on. So I have a confession to make. I'm going to cut up that pass clip a little bit so you can see me put the fertilizer or the lime into the basket. But my head was cut off for most of it because I'm a moron and didn't make sure I was in the frame the whole time. So instead of staring at me, wave my hands around without being able to see my head, as comical as that probably is, I'm going to cut that clip up a little bit so you can kind of see me doing what I'm doing, and then you'll see this part and kind of chuckle. Okay, so fertilizer spreader is set to a 4, going off the handy dandy gauge down there for granular fertilizer. It's set between 3 and 5, so I set it for a 4 because I'm a middle of the road kind of guy. So we're just going to go ahead and walk this down without dropping it. Well, first we got to open it. That helps. Yeah, open that little lever there, and then we'll start pushing this stuff across the ground. So I got my fertilizer, or my lime and my fertilizer spreader all ready to go. I got 2 bags loaded up in that. This plot here being fairly rectangular and skinny, it's pretty easy. I'm just gonna walk back and forth. I'll probably just go down and come back. It'll probably be ran out at that point. So here we go. Like I figured, basically a trip down the back, it was empty. That takes care of this piece. Okay, so now we're over here at Harold and Karen's. This isn't mine. This is the Meyer farm up the road. Maybe someday I'll have something that looks like that. But you know, until then, he's actually over here at the other piece across the pond here, putting in his nitrogen, because the corn's to the point where it could take its first shot of nitrogen. So that's what he's doing right now. But anyways, so this is where I planted here last weekend. There isn't any emergence yet. I kind of been walking through here, just kind of looking to see what we got. And the soil's kind of crusted over a little bit, just because of the rainfall, as I kind of figured it would. But this stuff did get some rain, and so I'm expecting it to be starting to germinate here probably pretty quick. I mean, it is germinating now, but we should see some emergence here hopefully by the weekend. So with that said, hopefully we get some here. Sorry, I'm just playing with a random divot in the ground here. Anyways, hopefully we'll get some emergence here. We can take a look at this. But with that said, this is kind of perfect because I don't have to worry about stepping on any corn plants yet. We're going to go ahead and get the lime put down here. This is actually kind of like a community garden. So this is over on Harold and Karen's property here. And obviously this was part of their lawn until I got here. But we've also got like a little community garden set up here. So Harold's got some potatoes planted. Louis looks like he's got some peppers and whatnot planted, and tomatoes. And I believe these are probably squash. I'm not sure exactly. And then if you see the Bush Light can and then the random stick with a corn packet on there, that was me. That was kind of the preemptive to all of this. Those are corn seeds that are probably 5 years old. Have been living on my fridge for at least 3. My mom's fridge for probably 2. And I just decided to plant them one day and water them with the Bud Light can I had in my, or Bud Light, listen to me, come on. Bush Light can I had in my hand. And it looks like I've got a whole 2 pieces of corn that came up. I think they're just a generic bicolor variety. Louie's actually been watering this for me, thankfully. But yeah, I had 2 little shoots come up. I don't know if it's because of how old the corn seed was, or if you shouldn't water your corn with Bush Light. But Bush Light's made with corn, so in my scientific thinking, I think it would work just fine. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. So anyways, let's get the lime put in. Go, baby, go. My tires were sinking in from the weight of the spreader. Okay, and so the lime has been put down, and I think that's where we're going to stop for tonight. Altogether, this video is probably going to be like 30 minutes long. 3/4 of it's probably just me talking nonsense. But at least you got to watch me almost fall over with a fertilizer spreader and put the lime down. So with that said, the lime's down. We'll put the fertilizer, we'll put our first application fertilizer down once the corn gets to be probably about 8 or 10 inches tall. And hopefully this stuff here comes up this weekend for Father's Day. Be kind of nice. And we'll be able to show that off. So we'll see what happens here. But until then, I'll see you later. Oh, one more thing before I let you guys go. I hope you found this video fairly entertaining and informational. And if you like it, please let me know. If you don't like it, please let me know. If I'm full of crap and you want to tell me, please let me know. But if you like it, please like it. If you disliked it, you can hit the dislike button. Please subscribe, because that lets me know that you guys like what I'm doing. It'll let you know when there's further videos for you guys to watch. And it just really helps out my little channel here hopefully grow. You know, please by all means share if you want to. You don't have to, but it would help my videos get around. And please just let me know how you like them so far. I'm really excited about how this is going. I'm really excited to finally find out what's in my soil. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I'll finally let you go this time. Enough of me talking. It's been all video of me talking. Just talking. Oh look, sunset. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Anyways, I'll let you go. Thanks.